Communication itself is shaped to filter raw emotion, which makes the act of hiding less visible, and therefore harder to challenge. When individuals no longer realize they've suppressed something, the cycle becomes much harder to break. The point of the quiz you're about to take is not to diagnose you or define your identity. It exists to offer a mirror, to catch little clues about how this cultural pattern might be shaping you. The approach is playful because humor helps people look at difficult topics without shutting down, but the insights are serious. Suppression doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you've adapted to an environment everyone around you is adapting to as well. Noticing which style of suppression shows up in your life is the first step toward creating even small openings for authenticity. Think for a moment about the last time you held back your real feelings. Did you soften them into something funny? Did you share a relatable post instead of admitting vulnerability? For many, especially online, humor has become the default disguise. And understanding how humor can both protect and obscure emotion is the next step in unpacking these patterns. The meme mask, humor as emotional armor. Do you ever notice how laughter sneaks in when emotions feel too heavy to put into words? Humor has become a common coping shortcut online. Often safer to post a joke than a raw confession. Humans have always leaned on laughter in hard moments. People chuckle at funerals, trade jokes in waiting rooms, or laugh with friends after a long day. But in the digital era, especially on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, humor isn't just an occasional release. It's evolved into a global reflex, a constant filter layered over daily life. A single video about being stressed or heartbroken can be copied, remixed, and echoed thousands of times. What once felt like a personal coping tool has become one of the main ways entire communities manage emotions. Take memes, for example. Instead of writing out, "I feel exhausted and disconnected," it's quicker to send an image of a cartoon collapsing with a caption like "me emotionally." It signals distress, but in a package that feels lighter, safer, and instantly relatable. The exchange often stays on the surface, a laugh back, another meme in return. It's not that people don't care, but the shared script makes it easier to joke than to dive deeper. For a generation raised in digital spaces, humor feels like the default way to express struggle without overexposing vulnerability. This shortcut works because comedy is fast, portable, and emotionally contained. Writing out loneliness takes effort and may be met with silence or judgment. Reacting with irony or sarcasm takes seconds and usually guarantees engagement. Researchers studying online diffusion patterns note that not every emotion spreads the same way. While anger and anxiety are both negative emotions, anxiety posts tend to travel further. They prompt connection, support, or warnings in ways anger doesn't. That difference in how emotions spread shapes expression. People often mask anxiety, sadness, or fatigue in humor precisely because those coded messages move more smoothly across feeds. Quick check. When did you last use a meme instead of saying what you really felt? The challenge is that while the laugh gives temporary relief, it doesn't let deeper processing happen. Laughter can lower stress in the short term, but it doesn't provide the same regulatory benefit as crying, talking openly, or reflecting through writing. Psychologists often compare it to a release valve that lowers pressure for a moment, but doesn't empty what's inside. Over time, if jokes become the only outlet, the unprocessed feelings pile up. This is why therapists say clients who joke constantly in sessions may appear open, but often stall progress. The humor interrupts the very space that would allow authentic emotions to surface. Consider how dark humor, increasingly, dominates online communities. Videos about burnout, sarcastic takes on depression, or jokes about therapy fatigue are some of the most widely shared content today. That doesn't mean everyone laughing at this content is deeply unwell, but it does highlight humor's dual role. On one hand, it is a socially acceptable entry point into difficult topics. On the other, it can keep conversations shallow by prioritizing relatability over honesty. A meme about never sleeping before deadlines might build instant solidarity, but prevent anyone from admitting they're truly on the edge. Here's a scene that illustrates this tension. Picture a group of college friends trading jokes after a brutal exam week. One says they slept 3 hours total and lived on vending machine snacks. The room bursts into laughter as each person adds their own exaggerated confession. Everyone leaves feeling closer, yet one person may have been signaling a real health issue. The humor kept the moment light, but also discouraged them from breaking the pattern with honest words like, "I'm not okay." The mask protected them from vulnerability, but also blocked an opportunity for support. The paradox becomes sharper when you see how humor makes emotions both visible and invisible at the same time. Sending a sad meme technically reveals sadness, but the veneer of comedy shifts how it's received. The person on the other end may react with, "LOL same," and the disclosure is over. A connection forms around the laugh, but the weight of the actual sadness remains unacknowledged. This strange duality is why humor feels so safe, because it reveals without requiring too much. But it also explains why relying on it exclusively can leave someone feeling oddly unseen. Physiologically, this matters. When you cry or share openly, your nervous system gets a chance to reset. There's evidence of emotional release when people process feelings through words, movement, or tears. When you laugh instead, your body does get a short stress break. Cortisol levels dip temporarily, and there's a moment of relief. But if humor is the only outlet, the larger wave of emotion doesn't move through. Instead, it stays stored, resurfacing later as irritability, fatigue, or sudden overwhelm. It's not that laughter is harmful, it's that it isn't a substitute meal, only candy. Energy-giving in the moment, but lacking the depth your system requires. And here's where balance comes in. Humor used occasionally to lighten difficult experiences is not only healthy, but protective. It helps prevent despair from completely swallowing someone, reminds them they're not alone, and can even provide resilience in shared settings. What research cautions is when that becomes the only channel. If every anxious thought, every moment of sadness, every frustration is instantly turned into content or sarcasm, there's little room left for genuine processing. The culture of social media amplifies the habit. Entire pages are devoted to anxious humor, depressive memes, or jokes about therapy. Algorithms notice they get high engagement, then serve them up more often. People scrolling late at night see endless feeds filled with humor about their struggles. Sharing a blunt confession might feel intimidating, but recycling a joke about the same feeling seems effortless and safe. Thus, the cycle feeds itself. Humor circulates, honest emotion gets sidelined, and the reflex grows stronger. This isn't a call to stop joking. Laughter is built into human survival. It provides a buffer in tragedy and a way to connect quickly. The important question is whether humor is being used alongside other emotional outlets or instead of them. If humor is your only route for expressing pain, you may be muting important signals your body and mind are trying to send you. And those signals don't disappear. Left unheard, they often reappear in unexpected ways. Mini explosions of irritability, constant fatigue, or drifting disconnection from yourself and others. So here's the takeaway. Humor is not the enemy. Use it, share it, lean on it. But notice when it becomes the only costume your sadness is allowed to wear. Joking through hurt is a normal reflex, but if you always laugh while hurting, it's worth asking what the unspoken part of you might need. Sometimes layering honesty beneath humor creates a stronger bond than the joke alone. Yet humor isn't the only way difficult feelings get masked. Sometimes the hiding doesn't come in the form of sarcasm or memes at all. Sometimes it shows up as endless pressure to stay upbeat, grateful, and high energy, even when life is falling apart. And that's where the story takes an even sharper turn. Toxic positivity, smiling through stress. Ever been told to just be grateful when life is unraveling? That phrase might sound supportive on the surface, but what it often does is deny or minimize the very emotions that most need acknowledgement. Psychologists describe this pattern as toxic positivity, the pressure to maintain constant optimism while shutting out feelings that don't fit the script. Commentary and expert pieces in 2024 to 25 emphasize that forced positivity can invalidate real suffering and actually heighten stress, because when emotions are blocked, they never get processed in ways the body needs. Encouragement and toxic positivity may look similar, but the difference lies in what each one allows. Encouragement makes space for the reality of hardship and then gently leans on perspective. Toxic positivity, by contrast, leaves no such room. It rushes to erase difficulty and replace it with slogans. For anyone scrolling through feeds of polished affirmations and pastel-colored quotes about gratitude, there's a clear message. Joy is acceptable, wear it all the time. Sadness, anger, even fatigue, those don't belong. This approach suggests that negative emotions should be fixed or hidden rather than experienced and expressed, which prevents the adaptive processing that reduces stress. What makes this so costly is that positivity itself isn't harmful. Hope is powerful, gratitude is grounding. But when positivity is forced at the expense of authenticity, it pushes people into conflict with themselves. Picture someone grieving a loss being told, "At least they lived a long life," or an employee voicing frustration being met with, "Well, just look on the bright side. You have a stable job." These phrases come across as comforting, but actually carry denial. Instead of space for grief or fairness, there's a subtle demand to adjust feelings to fit cheerfulness. Outwardly, someone may nod, but inwardly their emotions get buried deeper, building a backlog of unaddressed pain. Research on emotional regulation shows what happens next at a physical level. When people suppress sadness, the nervous system doesn't calm down, it stores tension. Stress hormones like cortisol remain elevated, muscles stay tight, and sleep becomes disrupted. A forced smile may trick the outside world, but the body keeps carrying the weight. Studies consistently link suppression to higher cortisol and cardiovascular strain. In other words, the stay positive reflex doesn't erase distress, it traps it in the system. The rapid rise of wellness and self-help messaging in digital spaces has only accelerated that trap. Scroll through popular content, and you'll find endless encouragement to manifest abundance or choose joy. For someone already steady, those words may land well. For someone in grief, depression, or financial panic, they often land as invalidation. The suggestion is that unhappiness is a personal failure, that you're simply not thinking correctly. What began as encouragement shifts into pressure, creating an even wider gap between inner truth and outward performance. Consider one clear workplace example. Kara, a young professional, started a new job while grieving her grandmother's passing. Her team culture emphasized upbeat energy during video calls. Leaders closed every meeting with slogans about positivity, and colleagues showed up with unshakable smiles. On her end of the screen, Kara felt pressure not to disrupt the tone. She mirrored the cheer, typed enthusiastic emails, and logged off only to cry alone. Every stay positive message reinforced that there was no room for her reality, and instead of making her feel better, the disconnect left her more isolated. Over time, she described feeling almost invisible, her presence accepted, but her truth excluded. Stories like hers aren't rare. Teenagers struggling with loneliness may fill their feeds with motivational quotes, rather than risk stating how isolated they feel. Parents under stress may insist to friends that life is wonderful, worried they'd appear ungrateful otherwise. Even casual conversations get filtered. "I just need to keep positive" becomes the quick escape from admitting deeper struggle. These patterns teach people to keep their emotions tightly edited, presenting only the versions that look acceptably cheerful. The distinction that helps many people separate support from suppression is the contrast between compassionate optimism and toxic positivity. Compassionate optimism acknowledges difficulty, then builds confidence that better days are possible. It might sound like, "This is really hard, but I know you're not alone in it." This allows both pain and hope to exist side by side. Toxic positivity interrupts with instructions. "Don't be sad, just smile and be grateful." It refuses space for suffering at all. The first deepens connection, the second closes it off. Workplaces, friendships, and families often underestimate how damaging this subtle silencing can be. In teams equating energy with productivity, exhaustion is hidden under upbeat banter. In friend groups emphasizing only good vibes, frustrations never get airtime. The emotions don't vanish. They simply retreat underground, where they re-emerge later as tension, burnout, or sharp outbursts. What looks smooth on the surface often masks turbulence below. Online, the effect is compounded by algorithms. Posts radiating positivity tend to earn the most likes and shares, while vulnerable disclosures risk silence or quick platitudes. Someone saying, "I'm struggling this week," might be met with "stay strong," before the comment thread moves on. Over time, it teaches users which emotions are rewarded and which are quietly pushed back. The outcome? An internet of perpetual smiles that doesn't reflect the full spectrum of human experience. Physiology shows why this matters so much. After someone cries or shares honestly, their nervous system usually softens. Breathing slows, the body releases tension, and they may even feel tired yet relieved. After forcing themselves to power through, with a smile, the body doesn't let go of stress, and the person often feels fatigued and wired at once. This is why expression promotes completion of emotions, while suppression traps them in loops. Denying feelings isn't strength. It's an endurance test that the body keeps paying for. Healing, then, is about integration. Allowing sadness, anger, joy, and fear to all take up space gives balance. Each feeling carries a signal. Sadness asks for comfort, anger asks for fairness, joy asks to be shared, fear asks for safety. Listening to only the acceptable ones cuts people off from their own internal guidance. Toxic positivity doesn't dissolve difficult feelings. It only muffles their messages until they press back more forcefully. The unseen cost of constant brightness is that many people lose access to what their emotions are trying to teach. From Zoom calls where everyone beams on camera, to family gatherings where no one admits stress, to social media reels where every caption sparkles. What often looks like resilience is simply performance. The real strength comes not from relentless cheer, but from making space for the emotions that hurt. That's why even a small adjustment changes the outcome. Instead of repeating slogans, practice responses that validate. Next time you feel pressured toward forced joy, or when someone tells you to just choose happiness, try this simple pivot. I hear you, but this is actually hard right now. That sentence doesn't reject hope. It keeps you honest, and it invites authentic connection where suppression would have built distance. Toxic positivity thrives on editing emotions into narrow shapes. But underneath those smiles are entire histories of survival, of training ourselves to make pain invisible. And for many people, that training didn't start on social media or in workplaces. It began much earlier, in families where difficult feelings were rarely allowed to exist. The family echo, hidden inheritance of suppression. For spiritual seekers and those on a healing path, recognizing inherited silence is often the first radical act of compassion. Emotional habits do not arise in isolation. They are often shaped by histories that flow through families in ways both visible and invisible. Families pass down more than traditions and appearances. They also pass down patterns of expression and suppression. These patterns are often legacies of survival, born from environments where voicing fear, grief, or vulnerability was too costly. What was once adaptation becomes habit, quietly echoing across generations. Researchers studying intergenerational trauma describe how emotional suppression is not only taught but absorbed. Transmission happens through modeling, unspoken rules, and even biology itself. Children learn by watching how their caregivers manage hardship, whether by pushing through silently or cutting off tender feelings before they surface. Over time, these practices become ingrained, so deeply woven into identity that they feel like personality rather than inheritance. Researchers describe this transmission as a multi-layered process, via learned parenting behaviors, family silence, and even epigenetic markers that subtly alter stress responses in descendants. This means someone may carry traces of ancestral survival strategies in both their psychology and biology, long after the original danger has passed. That inheritance often appears through the smallest, most everyday interactions. A child notices a parent stiffen when tears emerge and silently learns not to cry. A teenager observes their family avoiding conversations about grief and concludes that vulnerability is unsafe. By adulthood, those lessons no longer feel like lessons. They feel like instincts. Don't burden others. Stay composed. Handle it alone. These are not conscious rules, but embodied ones, lived without questioning. Many who grew up under these conditions only later realize how thoroughly silence was rehearsed and repeated across time. Instead of broad statistics, which often simplify the complexity of family experience, research consistently shows that descendants of those who survived upheaval, war, or systemic hardship report greater discomfort with naming emotions openly. Qualitative studies highlight this in striking ways. Grandchildren of displaced families describing unease when talking about sadness, or second-generation members of communities affected by violence struggling to show anger without guilt. These challenges are not about willpower or choice. They reflect patterns of avoidance that became normal within family systems, repeating long after the original crisis ended. Consider one example. Alina, a young woman, grew up in a household where her grandparents' painful history was barely discussed. Her parents, shaped by that silence, encouraged gratitude and perseverance, but avoided conversations about fear or anxiety. As a result, Alina internalized the rule that struggles should be managed privately. By the time she reached adulthood, opening up, even to close friends, felt nearly impossible. What freed her was learning about intergenerational trauma. She came to understand that her reluctance was not a personal flaw, but a family echo. The silence she grew up with was not about her. It was an inheritance created long before she was born. That insight gave her permission to challenge it gently, step by step. What Alina experienced is mirrored in countless families across cultures. Silence can be mistaken for personality or cultural style when, in reality, it reflects generations of protective choices.